Now, the Democratic establishment continues to look for answers as to why they lost the election, blaming anything from Russia, Comey, the FBI, millennials, white men, the working class, racists, on and on. But Joe Biden actually is going to come up with another theory, which makes, to me, a little bit of sense. Now, in a recent interview with the LA Times, Biden essentially made the point that Hillary had no idea why she was even running. Now, in this interview, Biden told the LA Times, quote, "I don't think she ever really figured it out. And by the way, I think it was really hard for her to decide to run." Now, what's his evidence? Well, he points to some of the Podesta emails, some of them including high-ranking Clinton allies who were basically saying, "Hey, Hillary, you don't have a vision. Like, what are you actually running on? What are you actually trying to do? Like, we need a vision. We need to articulate to the people of why they should actually come out and vote for you." And, of course, she didn't. Now, Biden says she thought that she had no choice but to run. That, as the first woman who had an opportunity to win the presidency, I think it was a real burden on her, he says. Well, for me, I think maybe if she had no reason to run, she should have gotten the fuck out of the way. For, I don't know, somebody like Bernie Sanders, who actually did want to run for something. See, Bernie Sanders knew exactly why he wanted to run. He wanted to help Americans by actually getting good policy, okay? To go after the banks, to go after the so-called millionaire, billionaire class who refuse to pay their fair share in taxes and who continue to manipulate and use the governmental system to enrich themselves. He wanted to bring more people into the political process, to get people involved, and he called that the political revolution. Okay? Hillary Clinton, however, ran on nothing. Because as we saw, she had no vision, no real desire to do a whole lot for the American people, but of course a desire to do a lot for the corporations. And I don't like that Joe is saying, well, no, I think she felt like she had to run. No, she didn't. If you don't have a good purpose to run, if you don't actually want to serve the American people as your primary purpose for running, then get the fuck out of the way and let someone who actually wants to serve the American people run for president.
I think she wanted to be president, but I think it was just mostly hubris, which was ended up being a big reason why she lost too.
Hubris is my number one reason, actually, why I believe she, lost. And I've never been shy about saying that because it's true. Okay. She felt like everyone owed her the vote. And that sat very wrong with a lot of people, especially since she didn't articulate that vision. I think Joe's onto something, but I think he presents only one perspective. Now, of course, Biden, he's breaking with some of the Democratic establishment in that he's actually blaming Clinton for a little bit of it by saying, hey, look, you didn't talk to regular people. People that Obama had won. Obama, for example, had a lot of working class white people that did vote for him. Why? Because he articulated a vision. He said hope and change. No, it didn't turn out to be hope and change, but he at least articulated that vision, even though he didn't follow up on it like he was going to. Now, in the article, he said, quote, "Son of a gun, we may lose this election," Biden recalled thinking, "because these are all the people that I grew up with. They're their kids, and they're not racist. They're not sexist. But we didn't talk to them. We didn't reach out to them." And I think he's right on that. He said the Democratic Party suffered as a whole because, quote, "we were not letting an awful lot of people, high school educated, mostly Caucasian, but also people of color, know that we understood their problems. There is a bit of elitism that has crept in to party thinking." So, and there you go. And I think the reason that's there is because the party, most of the Democratic Party, has given itself over to neoliberalism. You have those wealthy donors who are the elites that are actually in control of the party. Now, I'll also argue that they've been in control of the Republican Party. But of course, Republican politicians this time were smart enough to know that neoliberalism right now and corporatism is incredibly unpopular. So they decided they're going to go populist, even though they had no intention of actually helping working class people. Donald, do you think Donald Trump's going to bring back all those coal jobs? No, of course not. That's not going to happen. You think he's going to, like, okay, is he actually going to stop TPP? We hope so. I'm not in favor of TPP. Ron, you're not in favor of TPP.
No.
We want to see him stop that. I will give him credit for stopping TPP as long as he doesn't follow it up with some other more horrible or slightly less horrible trade deal. Okay. But look, as I said, they played on this populism. Yes, there was some racist demagoguery involved in that populism, no doubt. But the American people, they were ready for something different. They wanted change. And the Democratic Party, unfortunately, decided they were going to go full corporatist by anointing Hillary Clinton, even though, yes, to her credit, she did change some of her rhetoric, but it wasn't enough because people didn't believe her. She was not genuine, as far as we could tell.
Yeah, and one other thing I like to point out, because I do sympathize with a lot of the folks on the left that, of course, held their nose and voted for her and held their nose and supported her, or kind of just saw, look, these are our choices. Look at our alternative. And it was horrible to see people that after Trump won are scared to leave their apartments because a lot of hateful armed racists were empowered and still are. That's absolutely atrocious, and none of that would have happened had Clinton won. But by trying to learn from her mistakes, and yes, she made them, and she made a lot of them, to learn from those mistakes and to learn from the mistakes of the Democratic establishment and to say we need to completely revamp things to move forward, that's not Hillary bashing or being a spoiled Bernie bro or whatever. That's saying we want to learn from history so that we don't repeat it, so that we kick ass and take names with a better platform in 2018. Neoliberalism is dead. It ain't coming back. It's over. Time for true progressives, for true populism, and to get back to what made the Democratic Party great back in the 30s. It's time to go back to that way of thinking, and that means true progressivism.
And it means caring about what regular working class people want. I keep going back to this Princeton report, where basically it points out how right now America is an oligarchy, in that the concerns of regular everyday Americans, such as myself, we get ignored. And instead the politicians always go for a more quote unquote business friendly type of policy, which is of course simply less regulation and less taxes on themselves, more taxes on the poor and the middle class. I mean, look, when a corporation doesn't pay their taxes, who do you think ends up paying for it? Either it gets shifted to the other tax brackets, or we end up with massive debts and deficits. And that's what we have. So anybody who's complaining, by the way, about the $20 trillion in debt, well, let's talk about the Republicans who will only pass revenue neutral types of policies, and the Democrats that are more than happy to go along with it while passing giant tax cuts to multinational corporations. But anyway,
not to mention, why don't we ever talk about our defense spending or anything like that?
Or why not? Right.
Why is it always, it's always the social programs. It's always what government is actually there for that we always talk about first.
Yeah. And that's not the conversation we need to be having. But as far as the Democrats' failure on this, again, there's that elitism, right? And there are a lot of elites in Washington, New York, and sad to say, yes, LA, California, whatever, that are saying, hey, what are you talking about? Everything's great. I'm doing good, so let's keep going with what's doing well. Okay, yay establishment. However, they forget to look that in the majority of Americans, they've been saying over and over again, this is not working for us. This is not working. We need change, and we're desperate for it. And unfortunately, the Democrats missed the opportunity to not only go populist and win those votes, but to actually go and help working class people by making sure that progressives, for example, Bernie Sanders and other progressives that were running, actually had a fair shot, and they did not do it. And unfortunately, the party itself is still fighting against these populist positions because, again, our system does nothing but reward the status quo and actively fights against actual real change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people, I actually don't think that the majority on the left is happy with the way things are going. And if you are, I have no idea. I mean, you must like losing. You must be cool with losing. I mean, we don't have the House, we don't have the Senate, we don't have the White House.
This is what we,
You know,
the
if
people
you're
that I
happy
point
with
out.
the course, you must like losing. In which case, I'm pretty sure you're a Republican. You should switch teams. You're a Republican.
The people
You're not
that I
you're not
point
part of
out,
the left. You're a Republican.
right? The people
But
that I point out, Ron, for clarity, are the people that are like, no, everything Obama did was great. If you criticize him, you're a racist. You must be a Republican. Everything he does is awesome. Hillary Clinton, everything she did was absolutely awesome, and she only lost because of racism. There are people that exist like that on the left, and those are the people that I'm talking about. The people that are like, no, everything's fine with the establishment. Let's go that way because Bernie's ideas are these progressive ideas. They're too crazy. They're too out of left field. They're too pie in the sky, and we can't have them. No, our country is a center right country. We're center. We're in the center, and so we need to stay that way. And trust me,
there are people that feel that way. I feel
Yeah,
like they're getting
absolutely.
smaller and smaller, though.
But
At least
but
I'd like to think so.
they might be getting smaller and smaller, but they continue to have a lot of influence because, again, I believe that these people are part of the elites, or at least they will vote for those types of elite centrist Democrats. So,
Right.
that's
Yeah,
what I
they're
think.
still the establishment, but I do think that overall, the overwhelming majority of people, even those that are, on the spectrum of being less critical of Clinton, they're still willing to say, yes, mistakes were made. Mistakes were made in that ground game. The Democrats need to change the direction. We need some new, fresh ideas at the DNC. We need to change the direction. I do think that, yes, the establishment is going to hang on because that's just what they do. But those people are dinos, and they've always been dinos. And, there's enough. I feel like there's enough people on the inside. I mean, Bernie's in charge of outreach now. There's enough people now that the party needs to take a huge change in direction because just having those Wall Street ties and that money, that's not enough to win anymore.
No, it's not.
They can't win on that.
Right.
That's a losing strategy. And that's what this election proved. That is a losing strategy. You can bitch about the popular vote all you want. And, hey, I mean, we could talk all day. I think the Electoral College is terrible. It should have been gone years ago. But, we were still in that situation where it was close enough in the first place, which it should not have been. She should have beaten Trump by a landslide.
Why is she not 50 points ahead? Why is she not 50 points ahead? Because
Exactly.
she had no vision.
So, neoliberalism's dead, and the Democratic establishment, it's not a winning strategy. And so without a winning strategy, Wall Street's eventually going to jump ship, man. They want people that are going to serve their interests, and you don't serve their interests unless you win. So the Democrats either need to adopt a true populist platform, become a party of and by the people again, or they need to get the hell out of the way. And I think Bernie Sanders knows that. I think that's why he's in the position that he's in. I think that's why he's playing the game to some degree, because he knows, like, we either need to turn this ship that way, because we did it once in the 30s. We did it once. I mean, after the Great Depression, we did it once then, and it worked for a long time, and we're at the point where it needs to happen again. And if it doesn't, that party's dead in the water.
So let me agree with your conclusions of what we need to do, what the Democrats need to do, but let me disagree with something or just add in something else. I don't think it's that, I believe that the Democrats right now are being paid to lose. I do. I think that they don't care about winning anymore. I think what they care about is we're getting this donor money. It doesn't matter if we lose because we're getting this money anyway, and we're going to get jobs on Wall Street. We're going to get jobs lobbying. So what does it really matter? And if we win, we win. We still get to keep our seat, And this is what the reason I say this is the Democratic Party keeps putting up the weakest, most ridiculous Democrats, the ones that will always bend over and do everything that the other side says.
Well, then what is the solution? And like I'm not even trying. Like I'm just honestly asking. Are you like should is the only option to burn it down? Then
No,
is the only.
I don't think the only option is to burn it down. The only real option, I think, I guess we have several options. One of them is long-term goal of we've got to get this corporate money out of our politics. You and I both definitely agree with that. The other thing is, I mean, not so much burn it all down, but vote them all out. Get rid of the ones who are weak Democrats, who are the ones that are paid to lose. We've got to get rid of those people. We have to take the Bernie Sanders route and do an actual, political revolution and get these progressives to run more for office. Now, there were some progressives that did win their races in this recent election. Of course, unfortunately, thanks to Clinton and the revelations from the DNC, kind of poisoned the down ballot. 2018, however, after Republicans really start to fuck it up, we've got another chance to actually put up real progressives. Now, I'm worried that the establishment is going to go the other way. That they're going to say, well, look, running these progressive candidates, they didn't actually win. So let's go the safe route. Let's go back and do more center-right candidates. Because they're the safe choice. When that's not what we should be doing. We should be putting up more progressives that actually have a chance to win, and the DNC should be doing its job in pushing these candidates. Now, as far as getting in the middle of primaries, they need to stay neutral, and I understand that. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't, that they should push the progressive candidate over the center, the centrist candidate or the establishment candidate. I'm saying they should stay the hell out of it, and not do what they did in this past election cycle, which was push the establishment candidates over the progressives. I mean, they actively sabotage these candidates. They sabotaged people like Alan Grayson. They sabotaged Bernie Sanders. They sabotaged a lot of these different people that ended up losing. The guy that ran against Patrick Murphy, for example, and for some reason I forget his name, and I shouldn't have forgotten his name, but the guy that was in Florida that was running a primary against Patrick Murphy. That guy had the establishment support. And he ended up losing, of course, to Marco Rubio. So somebody that was beatable, I believe, even in Florida. So, again, it starts with the bottom up. Okay, it does not come from the top down. You've got to start at the bottom and really pushing these local progressives into office, and then work your way up from there. And the problem with the Democratic Party is that they were pushing it from the top down, and that's not the way you want to go. I mean, just look at the success of the Republicans, the way that they've been doing things right now. They've been building up from the bottom. They've had these movements, these local movements. They've taken over a lot of these state houses. My state used to be blue. My state is pure solid red, from the legislature and all. Okay, the governor, old Republicans, and they're doing a massively terrible job with our state. Places like Wisconsin, and places like Pennsylvania, places that should be blue, that should have a lot of union representation, for example, a lot of these working class states that, Donald Trump had won, could have been and should have been won by Democrats and progressive ideas, because the people there,
and typically are. I mean, the last time Pennsylvania went red was 1988.
And we're not talking to them. We're not reaching out to them. We're not saying, "Hey, we agree with you. You know what? On the policies that will actually help you economically, we agree. We're here for you." The Republicans are not. They're the party of big business. Now, unfortunately, the Democrats are one of the parties of big business, wholly owned by the donors, same as the Republican Party. And that's what we need to fix. So there's a lot that's broken in our political system, and broken within our party specifically. So that's why, I mean, start at the bottom and start replacing these people. Get involved and slowly, take over. And
Right.
that's what I want to see. Is I want to see a progressive takeover.
Well, and that's a good strategy because that's something that can start right now. I mean, yeah, we want money out of politics and not just overturn Citizens United, but all money out of politics. But that
Yes.
is going to be a long process. That's a long term. That's a big game. We can't just sit around until then. Like in the interim, we need to win with the right progressive agenda in 2018. So yeah, I mean, I'm 100% on board with that strategy. I mean, I think that is the best way, and I think you're right. There are a lot of establishment guard in the Democrats that they're not that they're Republicans. They're Republicans, and they're poisoning the party. I mean, neoliberalism has in many ways poisoned what the Democratic Party is supposed to be about.
And if I think if we fight neoliberalism, if we can manage to excise it from the party and start to run as populists, actual populists that are actually going to do what they say, that's when we'll actually start winning. And it's not just about winning. It's actually about enacting policies that help regular people. And you know what? Rich people also get help with these policies as well, because that's what creates a great society. And so that's what we need to do. We need to start winning for the American people and not just the wealthy corporations.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think we can learn a lot of life's great lessons from Batman movies. Hear me out. Hear me out. Because I see it this way. When I see the way the establishment operated this election season, I see the future of the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders was the candidate we needed. Hillary Clinton was the candidate we deserved. So let's turn the tide. And let's get the right folks up there in 2018 and 2020.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent, non-corporate media, go to our Patreon page and become a patron. Patreon.com/TYTNation.